The point of the Moore Commission, lest you have any questions about that, Moore stands for Municipal Opportunities and Regional Efficiencies. And the idea behind this was to work in a cooperative way with cities and towns throughout the state, as well as other interested stakeholders, toward finding those solutions that help us create a more efficient and effective local government. That 4 years ago was an important exercise because if you remember 4 years ago, before the current economic crisis, as I would like to say, the crisis before the crisis in Connecticut was the property tax. The property tax was and the problem with the property tax was reaching really a crisis proportion. There were discussions and rumors about revolts on the Capitol grounds about property taxes and our over-reliance on the property tax. And at the same time, there was a lot of interest in some of the common sense initiatives like smart growth and regionalism that needed to be part of the mix if we were really ever going to get our arms around the property tax and permanently reducing our reliance on it throughout the state. So the Moore Commission was formed 4 years ago, and the work of that commission is yielding results even today. There are initiatives that are taking place all over the state, between and among towns, between and among boards of education, that would not have occurred but for the Moore Commission 4 years ago. And I won't bore you with some of those details, but it was I think a very successful effort. Today, obviously, we've got a slightly different crisis to deal with. Yes, we still have the property tax as a problem, but we also have a crisis in Connecticut and that we've been dealing with, which is the global economic crisis that we've all been facing since the Great Recession began. We're still in recovery mode, but we're still feeling the effects of that in terms of budget deficits here at the state level. And the problems that towns and cities are facing in making their budgets balance at the local level. So now more than ever, I think, if you can, there's all kinds of ways I can work the word more into just about everything I say. So now more than ever, we really do need to get back into focus the kinds of initiatives that we were talking about and have been talking about for years, that the Moore Commission started to deal with 4 years ago, because we know that support for a lot of programs at the local level will be challenged by the state budget. That is a reality. There are also a lot of structural changes that we may want to consider and may want to pursue in an effort to create those efficiencies at the local level that we currently don't realize. So when I became Speaker, it was one of my first priorities to make sure that we reestablish the Moore Commission, regain our footing in terms of the conversation in cooperation with cities and towns, to understand what will work, what will not work, but actually take some serious action beginning this year as well as for the long haul. As I like to say, we need to think big and go long, right? We need to think about the things we can do this year to mitigate the impacts that we know cities and towns are facing come July 1st. But we also have to think big, go long on some of the larger structural changes we need to instill in Connecticut to ensure that municipalities can reduce their reliance on the property tax. That in turn takes some burden off the state to continue to support an inherently inefficient system of funding local government, and overall create a more economically viable structure for government here in Connecticut. So I really appreciate the fact that Representative Larson has agreed to take on this task. I know from firsthand that this is a labor of love. It's a very difficult and time-consuming process, but he has agreed to take this on all of our behalf and on my behalf. So I appreciate your leadership and your willingness to do this. I also want to thank, unlike 4 years ago when the Moore Commission was essentially a House Democratic operation, I'm pleased to say that the Moore Commission this time around will be a bipartisan initiative and bicameral initiative. We'll have both House and Senate, we'll have both Democrats and Republicans all participating on it, as well as partners from the local level, both in terms of municipal officials, labor, and others who have an interest and a stake in what we discuss at this point.